Production funding for Making It Up North is provided by the citizens of Minnesota through the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and by the Lloyd K. Johnson Foundation.
I got goosebumps, and every day I'd come here and paint, it was the same thing. People drive by and a lot of nice, wonderful comments, and to watch the smiles on people's faces, it gave other people goosebumps, I hope.
Everybody who's participating in the painting lives basically in the vicinity of the artwork. I had no idea how I was going to incorporate like the indigenous perspectives with like the contemporary perspectives and how the neighborhood would receive that. People said the bus stops is where you see everybody sort of gather, so it's like 7 generations of people at a bus stop.
I knew I didn't want to put something up that I was okay with. I wanted to be like, yes, I did that.
We just had an idea for it, really, and he created this amazing masterpiece out there.
They said, we want you to do a mural of the tortoise and the hare. And I thought, oh, okay, we can do a mural of the tortoise and the hare. And then they said, we want you to play with it. We want scenes from Duluth. And I said, what scenes? They said, any scene. I thought, oh my God, we can put Ely's Peak. We can do what people see who live around here. My name is Tom Napoli, and we're at 40th Avenue West, Grand Avenue at the Tortoise and the Hare.
So I'm Mary Stuckel, and my husband Jim and I started this business 19 years ago.
I love Jim and Mary.
We love our name. You know, it's a fun name, the Tortoise and Hare Fable. It represents who we are and what we do here. We try to serve people of all paces. And so we thought, well, a mural on this huge wall facing a busy street would be really fun.
It was hard at first because I did it in panels. This was siding before, so I had to take the siding down. So in my studio, which isn't quite this big, I had to lay out the bottom part and then the top part, and then we put it all together here. And they said, tell the whole story of the tortoise and the hare. So how do you do that in one picture? And then it was just divided up to have 4 different scenes. Like that's the beginning of the race where there's a start line in the path. And this is where the tortoise is behind and the rabbit or the hare is playing up here. And then, you know, another break right here, another scene. And this scene is the tortoise putting shoes on so he can win the race, and the hare taking a nap by the birch tree up there. And then the end where the hare is just behind the tortoise finishing the race. That's Ely's Peak, Spirit Mountain, the quarry, which is now a beautiful park, and then the end where it comes down into Duluth, all the way to the bridge. This is the one that took the most amount of hours to do. Well, like the Zenith bookstore. When you have to paint Sherlock Holmes, you have to paint Sherlock Holmes, the same color, the same type of lettering. This offered a bit more freedom to be more natural, you know, create your own path. So, you know, put the salamanders on the rocks if you want, and if you don't, you know, and it makes it a lot more fun. And when people come by and they see it, they get happy. There's all kinds of different art. You know, there's art that's aggressive, art that's shocking, art that you have to look at and try to figure out, what am I looking at? Why is that there and why is that there? I like to do it where it looks just natural, where it's a happy feeling. Does it look like a beehive? No more bees.
You know, we thought, well, let's add a few Northland woodland animals in here.
And then started adding another animal and then another animal and some more animals to show, well, like to hide the animals too. Like there's a little moose right there. But you know, we have beavers, rabbits, robins, a little weasel, frogs right here. Forget-me-nots. Up here we have a nuthat, and the only thing that's in every scene is a tortoise and the hare and a crow. There'll be over 70 animals in here, and they're all natural from around here. Same with the plants too.
We had this beautiful painting, now mural, and then just gray bricks underneath it. And so Tom and I started thinking, well, we could plant some hostas. They'll grow nice and big to cover the brick. And that's what I was expecting. And then before long, his artist brain went into overdrive, and he just kept creating.
And that way, when you're looking at it, it adds another dimension to it. Like the yarrow right here, and yarrow and daisies here. So when you're looking at it, it fits more into it, makes it look a little more natural.
It's just been a really fun project to be part of, yeah. People we meet out on the street, they're just thrilled that this is on the corner now, and they thank us for adding some of this beautiful artwork.
It feels real good. I feel very blessed to be able to do it because I come and create.
I'm always asking what's missing and always reaching out to different parts of the community to figure that out.
Hi.
There isn't a lot of representation. Get as many different, perspectives involved as possible.
We're painting the generation. And puzzle pieces.
So I'm Moira Villard. My job as the artist was to kind of collectively take all the input that we got and put it into singular design.
Oh geez, that is a huge camera.
I included some sturgeon, which kind of have a lot of cultural significance for the Anishinaabe people who still exist here, It's kind of a reference to just giant things, giant human creations on the water, giant, spiritual creations in the water, just different things like that. Public art is so visible. And so people were seeing the process of, involving people of all ages and making art for neighborhoods, and had a lot of positive sort of feedback towards that. I'd gotten the Forecast Public Arts Grant as an emerging artist for the crosswalk murals that I did this summer. And that was a huge launching point for me this year, I feel, because I'm not technically a public artist. I just one day wanted to do a really colorful person, and it became what I did for a few years and what I became sort of known for, and the style is super popular. I call it color blocking, so I get like the initial colors underneath, and then I start blending it once I know where all the colors are gonna be. Growing up as a kid, and I'm undoubtedly like Ojibwe, and then my dad, who was the enrolled person in our family, left, but we still lived on the reservation. And then we became like exceptionally poor, you know, and so I just learned to be whatever being poor meant at the time. It was just all these things that kept me kind of away from the world for a while. I had these National Geographic magazines that we dumpster dived at the end of the year because my art teacher was really cool, and I used those to just practice drawing because I wanted to get good at portraits and, you know, seeing people. Ran into a guy named Rocky Makes Room for Them, and he was like, do you want to do a show with me? It would be cool. He hadn't even seen any of my work, you know? And I said, yeah, totally, because I was like, this is my big break. I'm gonna get a show in the big city of Duluth. It surrounded me with people, and I hadn't had that before. And just good things seemed to happen when people and art came together, and more opportunities always built up after that. This is just like the coolest, coolest use of a pictograph ever. There were leftover funds from Zeitgeist for the project I'd done last year, which was the big fish in Canal Park. And that's how the Chief Buffalo project kind of started. They were like, would you like to do, you know, some painting in this space and work with the Indigenous Commission? Then I was like, I want to do Chief Buffalo stuff.
Our clan system is going to be up on the back wall.
And there'll be like threads between their hearts and their minds to say that they came to kind of like a consensus on a decision. And all those threads lead to the crane, and then there's a thread that leads out, I think, from the eye of the crane. And so Chief Buffalo would be like the actual person connected to the pictograph when he went to the president with his messages. So
I don't know if I should do his whole shelf. What do you think? One yellow, one red, like fire colors?
My name is Michelle Defoe. My Ojibwe name is Wabanungagokwe, and I'm helping Miri with this art project. And these are all different stories. Like, we have stories about mermaids, and so we included that because, like, the lake is right there, and it's cool to see our Anishinaabe stories of what we see in the lake and what we understand lives in the lake. And so we have a lot of stories about, like, the sturgeon down there. She's including that, and the mermaid. Turtles, we have a lot of turtle stories.
I wanted these to be like sort of motion. So like when we outline it in black, it'll be that diversity of Indigenous, you know, styles and perspectives and stories and experiences. And I'm hoping to incorporate as many other Indigenous identifying artists as I can in that process. It doubles as fins or movement. I just like having like a little like flow in the direction of where they're swimming.
Okay.
And to suddenly have a space where there's just, you're just overwhelmed with tons of different perspectives and stories. It's just gonna be really cool, and I'm excited to kind of facilitate that happening.
It's kind of like we coexist together. So we have our non-Indigenous stories weaved in with our Indigenous stories, and it's kind of like they're all with each other. So I like that message.
I'm white and Native, you know, and being able to come to terms with just embracing both of those things. Because I'm one segment of Indigenous perspective. I'm not a representative of the whole experience, and nobody is. Today I feel like success is balanced, but maybe next week I'll think something differently. There's such a scarcity mindset, I feel, that people are just like, if we do this, then we can't do this. I'm like, no, you can do both things with art. You can do anything with art.
Sometimes I gotta back all the way up and look at it because I tend to go crazy if I'm too close for too long. The original idea, I was kind of thinking a frame, so the charcoal provides that like really, really dark black. And I could do it with paint, but I kind of like the texture of the charcoal with the acrylic paint because you can dig into it a little bit. I did study horticulture in college, so I have a lot of plant background knowledge. I also tried to pick some kind of like seasonal to Minnesota, and some of my favorite things in Duluth, like right now the Annabelle hydrangeas are kind of crazy and pink and full-bodied. Raphael did this drawing of Madonna in 1508, so that is what I used for reference the whole time.
It came from her heart and her appreciation of what the old masters have done. I mean, when you try to do it yourself, like in anything, you really gain an appreciation of what the people that have done it before you have done. And so she just recognized the beauty in that drawing and wanted to bring it to this day and age.
We talk a lot about the old masters here, so right off the top of my head, I was like, I want to do a Madonna. When I've traveled, I've seen Lady of Guadalupe in Mexico, and in Europe, Madonna's kind of everywhere. I knew that's what I wanted to do, but I wanted to make her kind of modern, so I thought the floral imagery could kind of be like more me and sort of what people recognize in my work and kind of blend the two together.
Cam's part of our first batch of students, our first graduating class after this next spring, so it's kind of our first kids will be going off into the real world, and they're just beginning. I mean, to what they're going to be doing 10 years from now, who can imagine?
I think that this program has really helped me with time management more than anything. 9 to 5, I paint. That doesn't include the business of art, doesn't include networking or social media posting, anything aside from just getting here and putting in the work.
This school is really about teaching the craft. It's teaching a young musician how to play the violin. Then whatever music they have has an instrument to flow out of. So we're giving her the skills, and she's working hard to gather the skills of how do you draw shapes, how do you see values, how do you compose a painting. And with those skills, then whatever's inside of her can flow out in many different ways.
So I'm kind of like at the icing on the cake stage. Yeah, the Madonna was really just methodical in the way I approached it and thought of it, and easier to mess up. So I kind of started over 3 times, and I decided I kind of wanted her really simple and almost like a stencil, like a poster. And now the floral was just kind of in my head the entire time until a couple days ago. I was like, okay, now I feel confident in her. I'm ready to do sort of the fun part. And then this whole part right here is actually going to be cut out, and then that will be the actual brick of the wall. I was really excited. I'd never done anything like that before, so I was still a little bit hesitant, like, what am I forgetting here? Do I have all the materials I need? And yeah, just climbing up high on the ladder and stuff like that. But I was excited more than anything to just kind of slap it on the wall. Yeah. So Tom Moriarty helped me, and he's done quite a few murals around town. He's a good friend and he's super helpful, so I was glad he was there to kind of calm me down more than anything. Yeah, it was like 3 weeks of just not much sleep and yeah, burning the candle at both ends. I knew I didn't want to put something up that I was okay with. I wanted it to be like, yes, I did that.
Your goal is that you share your art, and to share it on such a big stage and a public stage where people can walk by and see it and not have to go to a museum or a gallery at home is fantastic.
I was so challenged, and I crave challenge. I'm sort of like, what's next?
It's really cool to see just like when you let go and see something come to life sort of on its own, and then at the end look back and be like, wow, like I couldn't have pictured it so much just by sketching on my little iPad. Like being in it or in the art is just such a cool feeling.
Hopefully they see the vitality and passion in it, and they see the beauty in it, and they think, well, this is a good thing. I'm glad that's there. I want to see more of it, and that's our hope.
Yeah, I actually have a couple people want some signage already, and then a yoga studio has asked me to kind of do a mural inside, and so yeah, there's already some things in the works. Wasn't expecting that so quickly.